It is that time as always. It is Wednesday night. It is the Metal Summit. It is the place for you to be. It is the start of the new year. A whole lot of fun. We are over what we had. We are all about what we've got now. Again, January, new year, whole slew of guests as we continue on. As always, with the Metal Summit, your island of misfit toys. We've got Jason. We've got Angel. We've got Bobby. And of course, we've got Psycho Steve. I'm Jay, but the fact of the matter is we got to talk about this guy, our guest, TNT great, vocalist extraordinaire, Mr. Tony Harnell. How are you, brother?
Hey, guys.
Yo.
Doing good.
Hey. Right on, brother, right on. Well, of course, we really appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your night to spend with us and be our guest here this evening. So we'll jump right into it with the conclusion of 2020, which was a landmark in a negative way for music just in general that nobody had ever had to deal with. But we're now into 2021. So talk a little bit about what you were working on in 2020, considering you weren't able to hit the road, and what we have to look forward to now that it's 2021.
That's a really interesting question. Well, in the summer, I put out a single under the moniker Echo Bats, and that was with Joel Hoekstra on guitar from Whitesnake and TSO, James Lomenzo on bass from White Lion and Megadeth, and he's now with John Fogerty, Matt Starr from Mr. Big and Ace Frehley, and Eric Levy from Night Ranger. So it's kind of a little cool super group that we started working on some stuff a couple of years ago, and we recorded that song, and it was kind of sitting there, and we were kind of figuring out what to do with it. And then the pandemic hit, and I reached out to them and said, we should throw this out there. It's a fun song, and maybe it'll make people smile. So then we just, we ended up doing a video, really fun, cool video. I happened to be in England at the time, so I shot my parts there, and the couple guys were shooting in California, and Joel was in New York, so it had this kind of cool international flavor. And so that's basically the only music that I put out. I did a bunch of Facebook Live shows when this thing first hit, and that was fun. And then I think most of the year was really, other than the Echo Bat song, was just kind of figuring out what the heck is going on and what would be my next move. So I put a lot of attention more on my personal life, and kind of figured out how to survive and just kind of how to just sort of pay attention to things that really mattered, which I think was kind of interesting because it was like a forced way to pay attention to things that matter. I saw a lot of people hustling, putting a lot of music out, working hard, which is great because we all needed to hear music. For me personally, I just didn't want to feel pressured to do that just because the world stopped, so I kind of focused on other things. But a lot is, on a lot of irons in the fire for 2021, so to speak.
Awesome. Right on, man, for sure. Well, hey, we'll jump right into getting around the table. And Psycho Steve, let's bring you in now, man.
Okay. First of all, I have known you for, I'm going to show our age now, almost 30 years. And this is the first time I've actually had an opportunity to interview you. So thank you.
Oh, that is crazy. Wow. Okay.
Isn't that crazy? Some people say psycho, but, we'll go with crazy. That's cool. I wanted to start off by saying, or asking you, do you have a favorite song to sing, like daily? There's like, out of any of your catalog, or not even in your catalog, like when you're just practicing, there's like a go-to song you have to sing to warm up?
It changes all the time, but I do like to warm up with songs that aren't mine. I do traditional scales usually, but then I also warm up to songs. And most of them are not metal songs, but or even rock songs for that matter. It changes all the time. I mean, for a while, I really liked warming up to Like a Stone by Audioslave, just because it wasn't too high, but it was high enough to kind of open me up a little bit, especially if I was singing every day and on the road. And then there was this other song by this group called I think it was called American Family or something like. And it was a weird name, but they have this awesome song called Hero that I heard at the end of. Does anybody remember the movie Garden State?
Yeah.
So there's this great song that is when the credits roll at the end. There's this killer song that I just love. It's like kind of a folky Americana thing, and it just feels good for my voice, and I just like to sing it. It's a good warm up song. So, but it changes all the time.
Cool. That's a Kevin Smith movie, right?
No, it's not. It's Zach Braff.
The guy. No. The guy.
Zach Braff.
The guy that That's it. Yeah, that's the one.
He's from Jersey, also.
That's because it takes place. Right, exactly. Right.
Jersey. Rising. What
Good old
exit?
Jersey.
Steve.
Anything to put Jersey in the forefront, since the majority of the Metal Summit team are Jerseys.
Wow.
Hey, I cut my teeth when I was 17 and 18 years old. I basically learned how to do what I do in Jersey. I got recruited at 17 by a band that was based in Philadelphia, outside Philadelphia, and they were playing four or five nights a week, 3 sets a night, and it was actually funny. My doorman, I was living in Staten Island with my parents, and our doorman was a guitar player, and he heard me singing up in the apartment, and he told this other guy that was a really good guitar player in Staten Island, and he was about to go down to Philly to join this band, and they reached out to me. So I played like a lot of my early shows. My first professional shows were in New Jersey. So New Jersey has a big place in my heart.
With Jackal, right?
No, way before that. This was I say way before. It was really only a couple of years, but no, it was the first band was called Castleton. I'm not sure why that was the name, but that was what it was called. And then another band after that was called Precious Metal, and they were both in that general vicinity down. This was like 1980 and 81 when I was down there doing that.
Nice. Right
So I
on.
love New Jersey. I have a lot of good memories and a lot of good people that I've known through my lifetime there.
Oh, shucks. Thanks, Tom.
Including you. Psycho Steve.
Well, let's travel down from Jersey into Pennsylvania, and let's bring that guy in.
All right, because I'm going to go in another area which is so deep in my heart. And so you came from Southern Cal, you came from San Diego area, and I read something, professional skateboarder. Now, I am pro. I did a lot. I skate now with Chuck Treese and Chuck, who's played with McRad and everything. And you and I are only about 1.5 years apart. But, I grew up on Tony Alva. I skate with Tony. I skate with Cab and everybody. So let me hear a little bit about your, good old days.
It's funny. Growing up there, I mean, that's just the lifestyle. I mean, from the time I was as young as I can remember, I was singing all the time, and if I wasn't singing and listening to music, I was outside skateboarding, surfing, riding bikes. That's just the lifestyle. So I think when skateboarding started to get big around, I guess 76, 77, when it really started to take off, I was right there. And I just fell in love with it. Where I really started to take off with it was I moved around a lot as a kid. My mom was an opera singer, so we were moving all the time, even if it was within California. So I'd go from San Diego, and in this particular period, we were living in Burbank.
Oh,
and
Del Mar.
So, yeah. And so I met a bunch of guys that were skaters, and we all just started skating and buying all the new gear as it was coming out, Road Rider wheels and all this, and they had some new skate parks. So we would go and we'd be obviously doing the whole breaking into people's backyards and skating their empty pools because the drought was happening during those years, and so all the pools were empty. Sometimes you had to take buckets in there and get the little water out of the bottom. But so anyway, as this developed, my dad was a photographer. He was a sports photographer specifically. And he just flipped out over this. And he started coming with us all the time. And he'd be our lookout for the cops when we were in the backyards of people's houses, swimming their pools, So, and he would shoot these sessions, and he started to get really good at shooting skateboarding. So he started to get pictures of us guys, and we were nobody, just from a bunch of 14-year-old kids in Burbank. He started to get pictures of us into some of the bigger magazines, and this started to kind of grow. And then his career took off in the skateboarding world. So he started to shoot the Z Boys. He became really good friends with Tony Alva, Jay Adams, and Shogo, and all those guys. And he was like running around shooting them all the time. And then, so I got to meet those guys too and skate with them. And then the skate park thing exploded. And then for a brief period, right at the beginning of the pro thing, when the first contests were happening, especially the first pool contest, I got a sponsorship with a couple of companies, Gullwing Trucks and Bel Air Skateboards, which is a small company. And so I actually was in the very first professional pool competition.
Very cool. Absolutely. No problem. I'm going to jump right back in here real quick. Angel, just because we had the disconnect, man, I'm going to bring you in, man. How are the Metal Summoners doing and Tony's fans?
Oh, awesome. Again, just want to welcome everybody. Star Peters, Matt Porter, happy birthday to you. It was yesterday.
Happy birthday, Matt. Woo-hoo.
Kim Sullivan. The first question is from the birthday boy, Matt Porter. He wants to know, TNT was on MTV a lot. Do you remember the first time that you saw yourself on MTV?
I don't remember that. I do remember seeing, I remember the first time that I saw a video on, I think it was called U68 or something. It was a video channel in New Jersey, I think. And they were kind of early on as well. I don't think they were before MTV. They were after, but they were kind of the little brother version of MTV. But I do remember that. And they actually were pretty instrumental in breaking the band in many ways, because they played Seven Seas a lot. So I remember that. And I do remember some interviews that we did on MTV that were pretty weird and funny. We did one with Blackie Lawless that was kind of awkward and uncomfortable. But yeah, it was weird. It was definitely a weird time to be 20, 21, 22, whatever we were, and all that stuff kind of going on.
My question is, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the road, or do you prefer being in the studio?
It depends. If I'm in the zone and I'm in good, it takes a lot. I realized during this pandemic, I have not been super active, which is by choice in many ways. And I realized also from being older how much it takes to do what I do. And I sort of, as I get sort of, further away from it, I realize when I'm about to do it again, how much energy and how much practice and how much focus it takes to gear up to the level of what I do. But and that's important to mention, because when I'm firing on all cylinders and I feel like I'm up to that place, both because I've been singing a lot and I've been writing a lot, so I've got a lot going, a lot of creative juices are flowing and the voice is going. Then I kind of love being in the studio and just playing with ideas and trying all sorts of things and working fast, But it gets old after a while, and then you sort of just crave being in front of a live audience. I don't like touring. I love being on stage, but I hate everything else about touring. I don't like flying all the time. I don't like the travel part. I don't like hotels all the time. I can't stand that part, but it's part of the game. So people think it's luxurious, but to be a singer,
Yeah, that's the picture we always get. This fabulous life out there on the road.
No,
That's the picture we always get.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have everything is great and first class and everything's awesome, it's still a lot, especially for singers. It's a lot of pressure because no matter how great everything is, you just don't sleep as well in that scenario as you do when you're in your own bed at home. So, lack of sleep and all the stress is not fun for us, in particular for a singer, because you want to be great every night.
So one thing that we get from a lot of singers we interview is that the two most important ingredients is getting enough sleep and drinking a lot of water.
Absolutely. Those are the two. Yeah, those are the two top ones, and then there's a bunch of other ones that are kind of endless, depending on how picky you are and what kind of voice you have.
Okay. One of our fans, Kim Sullivan, has a very interesting question. She says, you took over the microphone in TNT in 1984 after the band said they heard an original-sounding voice from the heavens and invited you to Norway to join the band. To this day, did you ever find out how did TNT get the demo?
No, we talk about that sometimes, and I'm still not sure. I think the band might have run some kind of ad in Kerrang, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't remember. And somebody that maybe I really don't know, but I know that when I was coming up from the age of 17, I'd been singing before that, but when I got into my first pro band, I started doing demos right away. So I gathered quite a lot of songs on a tape, probably 15 or 20 demos. And they were all across the board. They were everything from AOR style stuff and covers to metal and all sorts of music. So yeah, somehow it made it over there, and the rest is history, as they say. But yeah, I don't know. I just know that when I heard Ronnie's guitar, I flipped out and said, I gotta do this. I have to go to Norway.
Absolutely, man, for sure. Well, Jason, thanks. We got you all squared up. We appreciate you getting us fixed back up there when we blew out our amp. So let's bring you in for some of the fun, my good dude.
All right. So first off, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
And 2021. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna head in a little different direction here. If you were to give yourself advice when you were younger, knowing what you know now, what would that be?
That would be a very, very long, stern conversation. That would be a very, very stern conversation. Yeah. What would that conversation be? I did some things right up until things kind of took off, and I think that the biggest mistake a lot of musicians make is they do that. They tend to be hyper focused on sort of making it, and then you kind of get to the first part of that. When you're 21 and you get signed to, one of the biggest record labels in the world. We were on Mercury, Universal, along with Bon Jovi and Kiss and Scorpions and Rush and on and on and on. And it was kind of a heady thing. And in my young 21-year-old mind, I was like, oh, well, I guess this is it, That's like step one. Yeah, very few musicians, if you look at how many there are, get to that place. So that is a big deal, no doubt about it, especially back then when kind of getting signed to a major label was sort of the be-all, end-all, But but it's really so small in the big picture. It's nothing. It's actually what it is. It's not nothing. What it is it's like getting an invitation to play with the big boys. It's like basically it's like getting an internship. If you're going to law school, it's like getting an internship to the best law firm in New York City. But then you got to show up and actually fucking do something, you know. So I would say that if I had continued to do everything that I was doing to get there after that happened, I feel like my career would have gone in a much different way. And we had some other issues as well with the distance between the three guys in Norway and me being in the States, and a lot of different things. American management, American label after a while, and that was just because of the way things went after I joined. Everything was based in Norway when I joined the band, and then after that record was done, all the business got switched over to New York. So that was kind of weird. But I think just to just say to myself that, keep your eye on the ball, and stay away from and trust your gut, and do what you feel is right, in your heart, and try to take the advice from people who know more than you do, but also don't take so much advice that you lose yourself in the process, and definitely, if I would to talk to myself now, I'd go back and say, you need to stop drinking and stop indulging in things that these record label guys are putting in front of you. Which I eventually
all the time.
What's that?
I say that all the time.
Yeah, I think that was a big factor for everybody in the band as well. That wasn't great. But yeah, there's a lot I would tell myself.
Nice, for sure. Actually, Tony, to kind of piggytail off of Jason's question and with your answer, because I definitely dug on your answer, but it kind of sparked this question for you. So when you're on a label like Mercury, like you said, which has had Bon Jovi and Kiss and Rush, as like a young, hungry band, did you ever feel like a sense of like competition when it came to your peers on that record label, like paying attention to where they were going or what they were doing, and where you wanted to see you guys go?
Well, it was weird because when we signed to that label, we were actually with Doc McGee.
Really?
Doc was our manager. So we were the third band at that point in '85 when we signed with him. We were only the third band on his roster. And that was the rub for me. That was kind of the when we signed with Doc, they were touring for 7,800 Fahrenheit. So they weren't huge yet. And so there was a sense of, we can catch up to where they are, and then we can, and there's a lot of thought about a lot of things around that time, what the motivation was to have us, on that management team, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. I feel like there were so many bands on that label that were already so established that I loved, like the Scorpions and Rush, and there were some others that I'm not thinking of right now. There's so many great bands on that label. So Deep Purple, so I think for me, it was more just, I was honored to be there. So, then there was the Bon Jovi thing, and then there was the Cinderella, and that was interesting. They got signed to the same label too after we did. And that was interesting because in that band I talked about down in Philadelphia in the South Jersey circuit,
yeah,
I played gigs with Tom's early bands, Tom Kiefer. So he and I go back to 1980. In fact, the first professional gig I did with that band I talked about earlier, Tom Kiefer was sitting in the audience with the agent that we were actually auditioning for. So, and he had a band at the time called Diamond, I think they were called. And then from Diamonds, it went to Saints in Hell, and then Saints in Hell eventually became Cinderella. And so that's how far back I go with that. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the competition was really with all of the bands that were out there, because come on, let's be honest. You open up Metal Edge or Hit Parader or, Circus or any of the magazines back then. And honestly, when I opened them up and I knew we were in the magazine, for example, it took me a minute to find us because everybody looked the same and we all got our clothes made by the same guys. And, I'd be like, wait, is that? No, that's not us. And the same photographers too. We were all getting our pictures taken by Mark Weiss and all the other, so.
Right on, man. No, definitely. Absolutely. Well, let's keep on trucking, man. Let's keep this dynamite lit. Psycho Steve.
All right. So I'm going to touch a subject that hits a little home for you, but also hits home for me. We're both thyroid cancer survivors. The question is, you do talk a lot about health and wellness and stuff like that. Was this prior to, like, when you got that, I think it was a certificate or a degree in that field? Did you get it prior to getting the thyroid cancer, or did you get it because of the thyroid cancer?
It was a combination of things. I had been interested in holistic health for a long time. I started getting into it around 1999, well, probably around 91, 92. I started to get really into it and trying different things and diets and holistic approach to things. Having some struggles with my health and with my voice, and realized I was eating like shit, basically. So I learned a lot, and I kept learning and then when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, it happened to be right at the same time that my mother was actually starting to succumb to breast cancer. So I had that going on. And I had just seen her. I'd gone back for Christmas. She was living in New Mexico. And I went back to see her, and she was deteriorating. And I got back to New York and had a scheduled test. And I wasn't even worried about it, to look at my thyroid, actually. And I got the diagnosis. So now I had these two things on my, her dying and me with this thing, and I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't realize when I first got diagnosed that I was, going to be okay. But my main focus was the surgery because of where it is. And, right. And I knew it could affect my career. So anyway, then my mom passed, and I was, I'd had my surgery and I recovered, and I, rehabbed my voice and so on. And then the following, in 2011, the keyboard player for TNT, he died at 41 of melanoma. And it shocked all of us because it was so fast. It was just like literally like he was having some pain in his arms. And then he went to the doctor, and like it had spread everywhere into his bones, and he was gone like in a month. And then in the same year, my grandmother passed from Alzheimer's. So within a very short period of time, it was just like boom, boom, boom. And I thought, I gotta find out more about things. And so I had a deep interest in finding out about how diet affects health and genetics and DNA stuff. And I mean, I went pretty deep with it and got certified as a holistic health coach. I really don't use it much in terms of, I don't see people and I'm certified to do so. And I could actually do that all day long, and maybe one day I will, but I did it so that I could just know more and maybe write a book for musicians or something, because they tend to be pretty unhealthy.
I'll drink
so
that.
That's
Absolutely, man, for
yeah,
sure.
So that's answering that. That'll answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Bobby, hang tight for a second. For timing purposes, I'm going to bring Angel back in with the fans in case there's any new questions.
There's a question from Jeff Beavers. He wants to know, how did Sonic the Hedgehog work come about? How was it working with Ted Polly on the project?
Okay.
Nice.
So Ted is somebody I've known for a long time. I've known the Danger guys for a really long time. We used to run into each other here and there in the 80s. And Ted is a big, I hesitate to use the word fan because we're friends, but he is a fan. And he was involved in this thing. And then I guess either he brought me in or they were interested. I'm not sure how it came about, but it's really kind of a funny thing. I didn't know anything about it. Nothing. I don't know. And I still to this day really have never really played video games. I don't really know anything about them. I had a friend that lived across the street from me in the 90s, who, great guy, dear friend. I played in a band with him at one point. He played a lot of video games, but when I went over there and I tried to get into it, I just thought, man, I'm going to sit here all day in the dark and become.
Is he still living in his parents' basement?
He's not, but it was just one of those things. I just thought I need to get out more. So I never got into it, but so I went down and I agreed to not a big fee to do it, just because I thought it would be fun. And I went and I did 2 songs one day and one afternoon. And then it became this thing. And all of a sudden I had all these young fans interested in what I do. And it continues to this day. It's funny because on my Spotify page, it's because Spotify is so weird and screwed up, and the TNT stuff, all of that stuff, and the Westworld and the Starbreaker and all these projects I've done, I don't always get Spotify. I don't always get credit for the plays. Yeah. So if you go to my Spotify page, there are very few songs that I'm getting actual credit for. But if you go to my Spotify page, it'll say, I'll get the thing at the end of the year. Everybody, all the musicians brag and post the thing. We had, this many plays. I think this year I had almost 4 million streams, right? The majority of those are Sonic the Hedgehog, because none of my other music is connected to my page because it's the band's, So I sit back sometimes and
the reason why on that it's streamed through PlayStation and PlayStation, with the online gaming, it ties right in, because I have a friend and her. Linda Carter, and she's in Fallout 4, and she gets the same thing. All the money, her songs are in there, and it just nails that way.
Yeah,
these 14-year-olds are sitting there going.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't get any of that money. In other words, that was a buyout for me. Anyway, that's a different subject, because it's about Spotify and it's about publishing and all. But the point is, I sit there and I look at that and I go, okay, I got this buyout 20 years ago for this thing that is, on the positive side, brought a lot of fans my way that have nothing, that then they discovered TNT and my other projects and so forth. So it's been, in many ways, it's actually funny, because I used to kind of dismiss it, but I realized, wait a minute, this is actually getting maybe more streams, probably more streams than TNT. I don't know, because I can't see how many streams TNT is getting. But
you're like the Dick Van Dyke now of metal.
Yeah, it's interesting. So now I actually listed in my bio on Instagram and stuff, and I said TNT Sonic, and and a lot of people know me from that, especially younger fans. So it turned out to be a cool thing. I'm grateful for that experience.
That's awesome. Right on. Jeff, great question. Cool thing about Jeff Beavers is I've known Jeff for about 10 years. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching with us, man. He's stage managed a bunch of Baltimore bands like King Belvedere and Love in Vain, and I was the guitar tech for Love in Vain for a short time. So thank you so much, Jeff, for chiming in and
Thanks,
getting
Jeff.
involved. Angel, keep rocking with it, buddy.
I got Kim Sullivan. She wants to know, would you consider doing anything with Ronnie again, either with TNT or outside of TNT?
Oh, of course. TNT is not a very big band in certain circles, but there's this cult thing about it, which is always surprising to me. It always surprises me how many people know about the band and actually even know who's in the band. It's always very shocking and humbling to me, and I'm so grateful for that. But there's a lot of misconceptions about the breakups that we've had and so forth. But the truth is, most of it's to do with business stuff that we just couldn't get together. But very few deep enough personal issues. But Ronnie and I talk all the time. We just spoke the other day, and we're actually talking quite a lot these days. So absolutely, that's possible. We're just trying to make sure that we do it correctly so that there's no more, breakups, basically, for lack of a better word. I mean, the idea is to just have this, great thing that we all work so hard on. I mean, 15, I don't know how many albums exactly there are between the studio albums, the live albums, and the best of albums. But I think with me, there's got to be at least 15 or something like that. And those, people want to see Ronnie and I on stage together playing those songs. And so it feels like something that should get up and running and be operating properly so that we can be playing regularly every year. And that can be a part of my life until I don't want to do it anymore. But I think a lot of people have not seen the band and deserve to before we decide that we don't want to do it anymore. So always, and Ronnie and I talk about doing projects outside TNT as well, like a kind of a Page Plant type thing where we get together and do something where we don't feel like we're in the TNT box, because he and I are interested in a lot of other kinds of music. So it would be interesting for us to explore other things together.
Nice.
Thanks for that question, Kim.
Yep, nice question. I have a question as well. Kind of forgot it off the top of my head, but it's coming back to me. Besides vocals, did you ever play any other instruments?
I play guitar really badly. I was playing a lot of guitar when I kind of started getting serious about singing. I was pretty serious about guitar, and then I don't know. I just kind of it was kind of a funny thing playing with such good guitar players. It could have gone either way. It could have been a thing where they wanted to show me more, and so I learned more, or like Ronnie, where he just kind of went, you don't need to play. I regret it, because as a songwriter, I do pretty well writing with what I do, but it could certainly be enhanced a lot if I played more and focused on it a little more. But that was the main thing. I mean, I played trumpet when I was a kid and played some other things, flute and trumpet, but nothing real serious. Probably badly if I were to go back and hear anything.
I played the flute. No.
Well, real quick, I just want to let the Metal Summoners know that we do have Tony on kind of some limited time tonight. So I got to hit the Metal Summoners. I got to hit all you fans with a last call for alcohol. Hit your questions into the comments. So when I kick it back to Angel, he'll be able to get them answered for you. The episode will continue a little bit past Tony, so stick with us and rock out with us a little bit longer. I do got to let you guys know that for this episode, it's last call for alcohol when it comes to questions for Tony. Bobby Dreyer, take it away, brother.
So, Tony, you mentioned Echo Bats, which I love. Save Me From Loving You.
Yeah.
And Easy Street. My favorite song when I was living in Amsterdam, when the album came out, two things popped into my head. Both those songs, Beatles and Queen.
Yeah.
Two things first things I hear when I hear those tunes.
Well, those are I mean, funny thing is, my taste in music is, I could go on and on and on about my favorite bands. It's not easy for me to talk about my favorite music because I could think I completed that list, and then all of a sudden someone will say, "What about this?" And I'll go, "Oh my God, yeah, I love that too." I mean, my taste is everywhere from Beatles and Queen. I would say are probably like at the top for me. In terms of the big picture, I think in terms of really getting all of those colors and flavors into my heart, and then things like the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac and so on. But stuff like Judas Priest, which obviously Rob Halford is a huge influence on me, and then Journey. If I start to list singers, it's kind of a different list than if I list just what bands do I love. It's a little different, but some of the same.
Those two songs. Did you have a lot of? I can really hear the harmonies and the balance between going major minor, the way you did it, which was very 70s-esque.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I just think 70s music is the best. I still think so. I think that even though I was a part of the 80s music, and there was a lot of good music in the 80s, a lot of really great music, for me, there's just something about the 70s that it's just better. And it's not because, is it because I was in high school? Because that's usually when people, whatever music was big when they were in high school tends to be what people love the most. But I've analyzed it and I've looked at it and I've really listened to all the decades, and I've loved a lot of music from every decade, from the 70s on, from the 60s on. But there's just something about the 70s that has something extra. It was a lot of discovery in the rock world, especially the hard rock world. There was a lot of new things happening. And if you think about it, hard rock in particular, you had all these different bands that were so different from each other, but they were kind of under the same. You might see them all playing the same festival or something, at a stadium, but. On one hand, you had Ted Nugent, but then you had Aerosmith, and you had Kiss, and you had Black Sabbath, and you had, UFO, Judas Priest, and Thin Lizzy. And there was just so much, but every one of the bands I just listed, they were so different from each other. And I think the problem with the 80s, if I'm to get a little bit down on it, was including us, because we got kind of dragged into that or forced into it by the label and other people that were the powers that be. We weren't strong enough to say, and that's one of the things I'd say to my younger self too, is don't listen to these people all the time. Do what you feel. But I think that it's not Nirvana that killed the 80s bands. It's the 80s. It's the record companies and just too many signings of the same thing with the same hair and the same song styles, and it just became too generic, and everybody wanted the next this and the next Bon Jovi, the next Def Leppard, and then it just became a sea of Bon Jovi and Def Leppard type bands.
Well, before we let you go, I want to ask you one thing. You're wearing a shirt, and I want you to talk about
my new
the Rock Singer Society. I want to get it because it's awesome. I even want to get you in a bunch of people, but I work at a college, and if you could talk about that real quick, and I'll throw it out to somebody else.
No, I mean, so when the pandemic hit, it became, like I said, I focused a lot on things that weren't necessarily career related, but they were. This is something I wanted to do for a long time. I've been working with other singers for 30 years, and I love doing that. But when the internet took off, I was one of the early guys that was doing vocal coaching online with people all over the world, because I have fans all over the world and singers all over the world that wanted to work with me. I studied with one of the best vocal coaches in the world when I was very young, and continued for years. And still, if I'm in New York, I'll go have a lesson with him, Don Lawrence. And so I take a lot of different things, my experience, what I learned from Don, a lot of different elements into this course. It's a very full, rich course. It's full of incredible information, just really kind of a priceless course. I'm super proud of it, as you can tell. And I have had so much success so much fun watching the success of the singers that have been on the course so far since it was launched a couple of months ago. We put a lot of love and a lot of time into building the course. I had help from a very, very dedicated couple of people. And anyway, it's the rocksingersociety.com.
Very cool.
Any singers out there that are interested in improving their voice, the great thing about this course that makes it different from other ones is that you don't just buy it and you're on your own. There is a community and there's me. So I am a part of the course, even though it's your course and you do it on your own time. I'm there and I don't desert people that are on it. So it's a really, really awesome thing. And I'm so proud that I was able to do this during this time. This is a time when people had to get creative and do things they've maybe always wanted to do and didn't have the time to do. And this is what I chose to do. So the rocksingersociety.com, and you can go on there, see what the course is about, and you can book a call with me personally and talk about your needs and what you want to do and see if it's a good fit for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony.
Right on,
Yeah.
man. That's super cool, man. Psycho Steve, it's all you, bro.
Okay, so speaking of vocals and everything, you've had multiple supergroups, I would call. For example, the Echo Bats,
Okay.
Wood,
Yeah.
and of course, recording with one of your dear friends, Michael Sweet of Striper.
Yeah.
You did a duet with him.
Mm-hmm.
Any chance, first of all, the Echo Bats coming out with like a full-length album, or any of the other projects that you've done with all these other people? Like, I know you did the project with Mark Reel, let him rest in peace, but with Bruno, and bringing it all together again, possibly, and putting out one album of like you doing a song with Miles Kennedy, one with Michael Sweet.
Oh my God. Well, I'm open. That's the thing. I'm open to just good projects. And when something hits me and it feels good, there are so many people I'd love to work with. Like I was talking to, I reconnected recently with Tony Franklin, who I've known for a long time, and we were talking about Rudy Sarzo, and I have always talked about doing something. There's a multitude of guitar players and bass players and drummers that I have wanted to work with for a long time. So, I'm open to whatever cool things come down the pike. As I am becoming, I guess you'd say, an aging rocker. But I think that I put out two new albums in 2019 with the third Starbreaker, and then at the end of the year I put out Love Killers, both on Frontiers. Next year I may do a couple more. It's rough with those projects because on one hand you pour a lot into them, and on the other hand they don't often go on tour. So it's sort of it's a funny thing to do a lot of these projects because when they come out really well, like Starbreaker always does, you go, man, I really want to take this out, and we did 3 great albums. I don't know if we'll do any more, but so yeah, I mean, between the always possible TNT reunion and other stuff that comes along, I'm always open to whatever possibilities musically. I'd love to do stuff. Some things that aren't traditionally what people would expect from me. But I would also still love to do a solo record that really encompasses all of the qualities that I think people would love to hear from me before I'm done. And that's always something that's on my mind of how to do that, the right producer, the right musicians, the right thing. I don't want to just throw something out with my name on it because a few people wanted to do it with me. I really want it to be the right thing. And then I just would love to explore other music for myself. I know it may not always appeal to my fan base, but but that's just a selfish thing for me.
Sweet.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, for sure. Jason, let me kick it over to you right quick, man, before we're all good. No
Oh,
problem.
and I do have to show you one of my incredible Christmas presents. This is
Oh,
my,
no, please do.
this is one of my favorite ones. So this is like this awesome Judas Rob Halford action figure.
That's rad.
Oh my God. So Tony, I got to tell you, last week I asked James Durbin sang with him, and I asked James if Rob ever asked him to break the law.
Oh God! Of course he did.
He absolutely did, without a doubt. Angel, let me kick it over to you, man. Final question from yourself. Anything
Okay.
for the fans before we cut Tony loose?
Nothing final from me, just for the sake of time. But last comment and question from the fans. Kim Sullivan, congratulations on being the only American inducted into the Music Hall of Fame of Norway.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, very
that was a really cool thing that happened last year. Unexpected. TNT was inducted into the Popular Music Hall of Fame in Norway. They don't have a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they just put artists of all music genres into this Hall of Fame there. Yeah, so I'm the only American that was inducted into that, which is a huge fun honor. It was a nationally televised show, just like we have here. And yeah, really, really fun. So that was a fun thing that happened. And also I did my first little tour at the same time period that I was in Norway. I did a storytellers tour, which was really fun, acoustic, and did my whole catalog and told stories about my life and different things. And it was really, really a fun time. That was last September.
That's awesome, man.
Not last September, sorry.
So
September
it's like you
2019.
and Aha are the big bands over there now.
The last September where fun things could happen.
Yeah. Sorry, what
Well,
was that?
No.
You and Aha Take on Me are like, it's like, wow, we can hear you. 10,000 Lovers and Take on Me.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Aha's from Norway?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh,
Also,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Tony,
Oh.
thank you so much, man. Oh, go ahead, Angel. Go ahead,
no,
bro.
just that one more question from Brian. If you could do just one live set with any band, who would it be?
Oh man,
Just the one
Oof.
live performance.
one live set with any band.
Yeah.
Who would it be? See, that's tough because a lot of times that means that the singer I admire, is he still on stage, or how is that going to work?
Or
I would say that it probably, man, that's a hard one. That is really, really hard.
just
First of all, I'd probably be scared to death. No matter who I say, I'd be scared to death to do it. So I'd have to really pump myself up and prepare for it. But I would say, and Judas Priest would be a huge, incredible thing to be able to do. Obviously Queen, but I wouldn't even be able to hold a candle to Adam. So that would be just me going, okay, whatever. Just to stand there and hear the band on stage would be pretty amazing. Obviously things like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, which is obviously crazy, but you asked, so I'm saying it. Journey, Foreigner.
Wow.
Dude, that's awesome, man. There's some killer bands to front, though, for sure. Absolutely. But Tony, man, we know that you have some stuff you had to take care of tonight, so we're going to cut you loose.
They can find me. My website's being totally reconstructed right now, so TonyHarnell.com is normally where I'd say to go. But honestly, if you go to the Rock Singer Society, that's for the singers that are interested in that.
I'll be there.
But I'm on Instagram, Tony Harnell. I'm on Facebook. So just look for all my accounts are verified with the blue check. That's how you know it's me. So find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking some
Thanks,
time
Tony.
rocking out with us, man. You're an alumnus, man. We look forward to having you on a future episode when things get back to rocking.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
And
Take
we got
care.
to skate. Dude, next time we meet, we're skating.
Absolutely.
So there.
Right
See you
on.
guys.
Later.
Thank
Tony,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
As always, we want to make sure that we take a second to thank our endorsements, our sponsors for being involved with the Metal Summit and allowing us to bring these rocking shows to you guys every week. So we always want to thank Bradley Entertainment. We want to thank Brad, Angie, Dawn for being involved with us and getting right in with us and supporting us as they do. We want to thank Mark and Lizzie from Rockin' Horror Apparel. They're a great clothing company. They clothe members of the Metal Summit. We really appreciate everything that they do. We want to thank Sarah Cadaver from Twisted Vines Horror Decor out of Rhode Island. She's fantastic, and we appreciate her very much as well. And, of course, Levin Lewis from Levy Metal Enterprises, custom guitars and stage gear, for being involved with us as well. We really do appreciate you guys being down for us and helping us rock out. Anybody that wants to get involved with us, don't be shy. Reach out to myself, any of the other co-hosts, or to the Metal Summit page. Let us know what you're involved in and how you want to be involved with us, because we would definitely love to help build you up as we continue to grow ourselves. We definitely, of course, again, want to thank Mr. Tony Harnell for spending his evening with us. It was fantastic, awesome stories. We really, really had a good time with him. Make sure that you guys are definitely following us on all of our social media platforms. Hit us up on the YouTube channel. Make sure that you're subscribing to that. Also hit us up on Facebook. Like and follow our page there. That way you always know when we go live. And also hit us up on Instagram. Follow us there as well for when we make our guest announcements. Our next guest announcement is coming out on Friday, so stay tuned for that. Definitely look forward to dropping that one on you guys. It's going to be a fun one for sure. We thank you guys so much. You're fucking awesome as always. We love you to death. As always, this has been the Metal Summit.